Algebra 1, Common Core, Unit 2, Section 6, Addition and Subtraction of Polynomials. A big part of this is knowing how to combine like terms. And we've seen this already, a few things. We saw it when we were adding and subtracting radicals, that they have to be like radicals to add or subtract. Like, you cannot add 2 rad 3 plus 4 rad 5. You can't add them together. It stays like that. But you can add 2 rad 3 plus 4 rad 3 to equal 6 rad 3. You can multiply the outside numbers. So that's exactly what happens with like terms. If we had 2x plus 4x, you can make it 6x. You just add or subtract the coefficients depending on the operation. But they have to be like terms. Now, if you had something like, say, 2x plus 4y, that wouldn't work. Or even if you had 4x squared, like 2x plus 4x squared, you cannot add these together because they're not like terms. Not only do they have to have the same variable, like they both have to have x, the variable has to have the same exponents. So if I wanted to combine 4x squared, I would need 2x squared, and then I can make it 6x squared, that type of thing. So again, if we have 2x squared plus 4x squared, it would be 6x squared. So whatever is common about like terms, whatever is the like part of the like terms, whether it's the x squared or the rad 3, that stays the same when you're combining like terms. The same thing for fractions. If you had 2 over 3 plus 4 over 3, you can add, because they have a common denominator, you can add the tops to be 6, but the bottom stays 3. And now you can simplify it in this case, but whatever is like about them, if it's a like radical, like rad 3, or like terms like x squared, or like fractions with common denominator 3, you add and keep that likeness, and you add the things around it. So it's important to remember that you cannot add 2x to the first and 4x to the second. They have to have the same exponents with the same variables. Now, polynomials are just multiple termed expressions. Like something like 2x squared alone would be considered a monomial, because it's just one thing. But if you add a 2x plus 4x squared, now it's got two pieces that are not like terms. That's what a polynomial is. So combining polynomials is essentially combining their like terms. And for addition of polynomials, we see in the example here, it's really easy. Like this polynomial, which is called a trinomial since it has 3 parts. Now these are 3 unlike parts. One of them has an x squared, one of them is just to the x, one of them is a constant of -7. And then we have another polynomial trinomial here, again with an x squared term, an x to the first term, and a constant. Now, because there's a plus sign between them, because you're adding these polynomials, it's really just combining like terms. You look for the common terms, like the 3x squared and the x squared combine to be 4x squared. The 5x and the -2x combine to be positive 3x. And again, all you're doing is just combining numbers. Positive 5 and -2. If you need to think of it as 5 good guys and 2 bad guys, that's fine. But a positive 5 and a -2 combines to be a positive 3. If you want to think of it as 5 minus 2 is 3, you can. If you want to think of it as combining opposite signs, you can. However it works. And then again, you have a constant of -7 and -1 combines to be, -8. So our final answer here is 4x squared plus 3x minus 8. It's the final answer. And there's no remaining like terms, right? You cannot combine anything in here because they don't have the same variable with the same exponent. So that's your final answer. And we do like to write it in the order where our highest exponent is first and then our constant with no exponent is last. We call it exponent descending order. Subtraction of polynomials is slightly more complicated because you have to distribute the subtraction throughout. So here for this example, you see you have a trinomial minus another trinomial. And what you're seeing in this demo here is that because we're subtracting this whole thing, you have to make sure to subtract each piece of it. So we have to subtract x squared. We have to subtract -2x. And we have to subtract -1. And remember, when you minus a negative, you end up turning into plus plus from that keep, change, change. So like the minus x squared here, we have 3x squared minus x squared. That is 2x squared, right? It's just subtraction. But then you get 5x minus -2x. And minus -2x turns to plus 2x. So it's really 5x plus 2x for 7x. and the negative 7 minus negative 1, again, a minus negative 1 becomes plus 1, so negative 7 plus 1 is negative 6. So, you know, sometimes I've taught in the past too, of anything after the subtraction sign, just change all the signs. So like this x squared minus 2x minus 1 becomes a negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. See, all the signs on there changed because that's what happens when you subtract something. All right, so let's try a couple of examples. So here we're just, combining like terms. There's not even any parentheses here, so just combine like terms. We have 4x and a negative 2x. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more, make this a little bit bigger for us. A 4x and a negative 2x. So positive 4, negative 2 is positive 2x, and it stays x, right? Because that's what's like about them. That's what's common about them. And then I have a positive 9 and negative 5. That's going to be plus 4. And that's it. Can't combine those. So you're done. Here is an addition of polynomials. So it's just combined like terms. I have x and 3x. They're both positive, so they combine like that's 1x and 3x is 4x. Negative 1, negative 4 is negative 5. That's it. Now here's a subtraction. So this is where you have to be a little bit more careful. So this x minus 4, I want to keep that exactly as I see it. But I want to subtract 3x, so minus 3x. And then subtract a negative 1. And when I subtract a negative, it becomes a plus 1. So minus negative is plus 1. Now combine like terms. I have a 1x and a minus 3x is a negative 2x. Minus 4 plus 1 is negative 3, minus 3. Move over. Just a couple more here. Here's trinomials, but again, it's adding them, so this is the easy one. Just combine like terms as you see them. So I have an x squared and x squared. Remember, that's 1x squared and 1x squared adds to be 2x squared. The most common mistake you guys are going to make when you're doing this is think that you got to do x squared and x squared becomes x to the 4th. You're adding exponents. Don't add the exponents. We saw that earlier. Like if we did x squared times x squared, it was x to the 4th. But that's when you're multiplying terms. We're not multiplying here. We're adding terms. If you do x squared plus x squared, the answer is 2x squared. Addition of terms does not change terms. It just add or subtract the numbers in front. Coefficients change, but the term x squared stays x squared. Multiplying and dividing is where exponents change. So throughout this whole lesson of adding and subtracting, we're not changing any exponents. Now, of course, the next lesson is going to be, multiplication, and that's where you'll see some exponent stuff change. But for addition and subtraction, your x squared terms stay x squared. Then let's see, all right, so we have 2x and negative x. That's like 2 and negative 1 is plus 1. So I'm going to keep the same color here and just do plus 1x. Remember that 1 there is optional. You could just do plus x if you want. And a minus 4, a minus 7, a negative 4, a negative 7 is negative 11. That's it. One more. Okay, so when I see a subtraction, let's be careful. A lot of times you'll see the wording. What you'll say is this term, the second term, is subtracted from the first term. So if you see subtracted from, like if I said A is subtracted from B, that means B minus A, not A minus B. And that's where people get confused. They see A, they see subtraction in B, so they think A minus B. But it doesn't say minus. It says subtracted from. From B is you're taking away from B. So that actually goes first, and you subtract A from B. So we'll see that in class and in a lot of examples, so you have to be careful with that. All right, so, but here, there's no words here. We're just subtracting. So when I see a minus of polynomials, the first polynomial I just rewrite exactly as is. So don't change anything about it. The second one, I minus x squared becomes minus x squared. I minus a positive 5x is minus 5x. And the minus negative, and that's where you have to be the most careful, is that minus negative, minus negative, minus negative. Think of it as one big plus 2. And again, you can kind of see opposite signs. This is like positive, positive, negative becomes negative, negative, positive. Now combine like terms. 2x squared minus 1x squared is positive 1x squared. negative 3x, negative 5x, negative 8x, negative 4, positive 2 is negative 2, and that's it. All right, so that's adding and subtracting polynomial expressions. There's a lot of combining like terms. And the most important thing, I think, is when you're subtracting them to remember to distribute that subtraction throughout the entire, polynomial you see there. And that's basically it. So that is Unit 2, Section 6, addition and subtraction of polynomials. The next video, 2.5, will be all about multiplication. See ya.